was the leader of Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization. Al-Qaeda is Arabic for the base. Al-Qaeda was formed in the late 1980s after the fall of the Afghan monarchy and a Soviet government took over Afghanistan.
The U.S. and some of its allies supported jihad, or holy war, against the Soviet Union through economic support of the Taliban and other Islamic groups. Osama bin Laden waged war on the West, namely the United States, because he believed that the Islamic world should only be occupied by Muslims, and the United States had staged troops in Saudi Arabia, home of some of the holiest sites in the Muslim world.
Al-Qaeda carried out a number of attacks against the world, including some against the U.S. Some of these include the bombings of Kenya and Tanzania, which killed 200 people, as well as the suicide bombing of the USS Cole in a Yemeni harbor, which killed 17 sailors.
Today is a tragic day for American history. 10 years ago, there was an attack on the Twin Towers. This follows the bombing of the World Trade Center in 1993 from other Muslim terrorists. America was in a deep state of unrest. 4 flights left that morning. American Flight 11 hit the North Tower of the World Trade Center. United 175 hit the South Tower only 17 minutes later. But that is not where it ended. American Flight 77 hit the Pentagon. This was a serious terrorist. The perpetrators were being hunted. The organization? Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization led by Osama bin Laden, a religious extremist. Let's talk to someone who remembers the details on the day of the attack. What do you remember of the aftermath?
It was a traumatic day. The Twin Towers, they were in flames. Who would have thought the tallest buildings on American soil in flames? I know, I still can't believe it. 246 passengers on the planes died. Can you believe it? That's like almost 300. And what's more is that there were over 2,600 more people that died. Like people around the Twin Towers, people around other places. It's just too much for me to even think about. And to think it all started with a box cutter.
Surely you can't be serious. A box cutter?
First of all, don't call me Shirley. This little one, this is Shirley. That's not me, it's him. Second of all, it was a box cutter. That's what the terrorists used to take control of the plane. Can you believe it? I can't. 343 firefighters were killed. Those heroic men killed, and to think someone could be that mad over our support of Israel and our involvement in the Middle East? Stupid.
Americans have many questions now. Americans are asking, who attacked our country? The evidence we have gathered all points to a collection of loosely affiliated terrorist organizations known as Al-Qaeda. They are some of the murderers indicted for bombing American embassies in Tanzania and Kenya, and responsible for bombing the USS Cole. Aiding and abetting terrorists, the Taliban regime is committing murder. And tonight, the United States of America makes the following demands on the Taliban. Deliver to the United States authorities all of the leaders of Al-Qaeda who hide in your land. The United States respects the people of Afghanistan. After all, we are currently its largest source of humanitarian aid. But we condemn the Taliban regime.
After 9/11, on October 7th, Operation Enduring Freedom began to get rid of the Taliban and thus rid the country of Osama bin Laden's terrorist network. The Taliban was removed within 2 months in Afghanistan, but in Pakistan the war still continued. Osama bin Laden went free until May 2nd, 2011, when, on the orders of Barack Obama, bin Laden was shot and killed inside a compound in Pakistan. He was shot by Robert O'Neill in Operation Neptune Spear, conducted by members of the U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6 and CIA Special Activities.
Today, the U.S. is still involved in Afghanistan, now the longest-running war in U.S. history. In December 2011, remaining U.S. troops were pulled out of Iraq, leaving that country in a more volatile political state than when military operations first begun in 2003. Because of the 9/11 attacks, Congress federalized airport security by passing the Aviation Transportation Security Act, creating the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA. Prior to 9/11, security had been handled by each airport.
Good new TSA implemented procedures that were much stricter on passenger and luggage screening. New machinery and procedures were introduced to scan for weapons and destructive items. This has been a continuing changing process as new threats have been discovered since 9/11. Some new procedures include removing shoes during security and the ban of liquids. The actual airplanes also underwent major changes, such as fortified cockpit doors, and some airlines have even stopped having first-class cabin curtains.
In order to offset the added security costs, a 9/11 fee was tacked on to passengers' tickets. This allowed the TSA to collect approximately $15 billion over 9 years. International tourism to America fell for 3 years after 2001. Starting in 2004, it began to increase again. The number of Americans who traveled internationally also declined after 9/11. Anti-Islamic violence in America jumped after the attacks. According to the FBI, 28 hate crimes committed in 2000 were found to be anti-Islamic. In 2001, the number jumped to 481.
I stare, your glare is killing me. Stare, skies of blue. The sun